Siddhis, welcome to the fourth session of the lesson Discovering TET. The saga continues from the textbook Hornbill prescribed by CBSE for class plus 1 students. In the three classes, we have learnt about King Tut or Tutankhamun, the 13th pharaoh of Egypt, who ruled Egypt for 10 years. And in 1922, Howard Carter, a British archaeologist, found out the tomb of King Tut. Till then, he was barely known to the modern world because he was sealed inside the earth for almost 3,200 years. So, after 80 years after the discovery of King Tut's tomb, Zahi Hawass and his men had taken Tut's body for a CT scan to find out the mystery behind the untimely death of King Tut. And here in the lesson, he refers to so many things happened during the time when they had taken the Tut's body for a CT scan. Here the narrator gives a detailed description about the ancestors of King Tut. Here first one, Amenhotep III, Tut's grandfather, ruled Egypt for so many years and his rule was considered to be the golden age of Egypt. He was succeeded by Amenhotep IV and his rule was considered to be the strange period in the history of Egypt. He was the worshipper of the sun god Aten and he destroyed the temples and idols of Amun, the sun god. After that, he was succeeded by Smenkhare, and Smenkhare ruled only for 1 year, and Smenkhare was succeeded by the young Tut or Tutankhamun. King Tut ruled for nearly 10 years. And here we deals with what is the reason behind the untimely death of King Tut. So we are moving to the next answer. The night of the scan, workmen carried Tut from the tomb in his box like pallbearers. They climbed a ramp and a flight of stairs into the swirling sand outside. Then rose on a hydraulic lift in the trailer that held the scanner. 20 minutes later, two men emerged, sprinted for an office nearby and returned with a pair of white plastic fans. The million-dollar scanner had quit because of sand in the cooler fan. Curse of the pharaoh, joked a guard nervously. So, night of the scan. In the stanza, it gives here the author gives a description about what happened during that day when the Tut's mummy had taken for a CT scan. The workmen carried Tut from the tomb in his box. So the Tut was in his burial chamber. So the workmen, they descended into the burial chamber and they took out the Tut's mummy from that tomb. And they hand into the swirling sand outside. Swirling sand here refers to there was wind outside. Then rose on a hydraulic lift in the trailer. Then they put Tut's mummy in a hydraulic lift and then it was put into the scanner. 20 minutes later, two men emerged, sprinted for an office nearby. After that, when the scanning was going on there, two men suddenly came back from there and they were running to the nearby office and returned with a pair of white plastic fans. When they came back, they had two plastic fans in their hand. The million-dollar scanner had quit because of sand in the cooler fan. Because what happened there, the cooler fan that was working there stopped working because it was disturbed by the sand. Curse of the pharaoh, joked a guard nervously. At the time, a guard who was standing nearby jokingly said that maybe it is the curse of pharaoh that the hydraulic fans had stopped working. Eventually, the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure. So, with the help of the substitute fans, they finished the procedure. That is, they finished the scanning of Tut's mummy. After checking that no data had been lost, the technicians turned Tut over to the workmen who carried him back to his tomb. So after finishing the scan, after they checked that they had stored every data, no data has been lost, they had taken Tut's mummy back to its tomb. Less than 3 hours after he was removed from his coffin, the pharaoh again rested in peace where the funerary priest had laid him so long ago. So after 3 hours, after he had taken from his burial chamber for the CT scan, he was again taken back to the same place where he had laid rest by his ancestors years back. Back in the trailer, a technician pulled up astonishing images of Tut on a computer screen. Now they started searching for the images they got after the CT scan. They were watching it on a computer screen. A grey head took shape from a scattering of pixels and the technician spun and tilted it in every direction. At the time, they could find a picture of Tut's head. The picture of the Tut's head appeared on the screen and he rotated it in every direction. Neck vertebrae appeared clearly as in anatomy and anatomy class. So they could find the vertebrae, neck vertebrae also they could find. Other images revealed hand, several views of the rib cage. Then they could find the images of hand and also they could find the images of a rib. And a transection of the skull, and also they could find a skull in a slanting position. But for now, the pressure was off. Sitting back in the chair, Zahi Hawass smiled. So Zahi Hawass and his men had taken Tut's mummy for the CT scan. Now everything is over. They had finished the scan. Zahi Hawass became very relieved, and he was sitting there. I didn't sleep last night, not for a second. And he was telling that last night I was very worried. I didn't sleep for a night because he was worried whether he would be able to finish the CT scan or not, whether anything happened at that time or not. But now I think I will go and sleep. Now he felt very comfortable, very relieved, and he was telling that today he will be able to sleep very peacefully. So the last stanza. By the time we left the trailer, descending metal stairs to the sandy ground, the wind had stopped. So Zahi Hawass and his men, after finishing the CT scan of Tut's mummy, they came out of the burial chamber of Tut and landed on the sand. What happened? The wind had stopped before it was blowing very violently. The winter air lay cold and still like death itself. Now it was just like the winter air was blowing, just like there was a stillness or there was a death-like silence everywhere. In the valley of the departed. In the valley of the departed here means the resting place of King Tut. Not only the resting place of King Tut, the resting place of all the pharaohs there, that is the Valley of Kings. Just above the entrance to Tut's tomb stood Orion, the constellation that the ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of the afterlife. So they could feel that near the burial chamber of King Tut or near the coffin of King Tut, who was standing there, the god of afterlife, that he is called as the Orion. He was standing there in order to keep the Tut's mummy very safe and secured inside the burial chamber. That was the belief of Egyptians. So we finished the lesson. Now have a quick recap again of the lesson. So we learned about King Tut, the young pharaoh, ruled Egypt for 10 years, 13th pharaoh of Egypt. 1922, it was founded by Howard Carter and it was laid to rest 3,200 years ago. And after Howard Carter found out the Tut's mummy, Zahi Hawass and his men took Tut's mummy for a CT scan in order to find out the mystery behind the untimely death of King Tut. And also there is a reference to the ancestors of King Tut. So students, hope you understood the lesson. Now the time for assignment. Who is King Tut? What made him the point of speculation world over? Second question. What changes in the nature was witnessed when King Tut's mummy glided headfirst into a CT scanner on January 5, 2005? Third one, why was King Tut's mummy CT scanned after Howard Carter had discovered it in 1922? What did the tourists from all around the world do in the burial chamber when a CT scan was being done on King Tut's mummy? Last one, why does the author lend a kind of supernatural effect in the opening of the chapter by way of describing changes in weather? What actually happens? Students, hope you understood the lesson. Try to do the assignment. Next class, we will be meeting with yet another interesting topic. Till then, goodbye.